But once again, real estate expert session 2. Number 3 here is show buyers and market sellers. So we got the home showing aspect, we've got the marketing aspect of the listing, write and negotiate contracts is number 4, coordinate the sale to closing, and manage the money coming in. And in reading this, there's a book called Shift written by Gary Keller. And he actually brings this up like literally in the first 5 pages of the book. And he talks about going back to basics, right? And he says, even with going back to basics, number 2 through 6, or ideally 2 through 5, can be delegated out to another person. So as you guys are doing your business, think not from the lens of like, cool, I'm going to just do this for a couple of years, make some money and get out. Think of it as, cool, I can literally do this. I document what I'm doing, or I just copy kind of a workflow that's already in place. I can also replace myself for a little bit of money, find someone that can replace me on a day-to-day operations. And then I can live in one, meet and greet people, have tons of relationships with people in my sphere of influence, networking, wherever. I can bring in appointments, I can bring in motivated clients to buy and sell real estate, and I can delegate from maybe number 2, maybe you can have some really super proficient gather all the documents or even send them out DocuSign. Or if you're more old school, like my wife and I, and it's like kind of 50-50, we meet with people and we go through the document process. I'm telling you now, 3, 4, and 5, that for sure can be delegated out. Like you can hire people to show homes, you can hire a listing coordinator. So just their full-time job is just marketing homes. I mean, there's a whole book on it, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, MREA, the red book is what we call it here. And that just gives you a complete breakdown on how that organization is built out. My wife and I are in the middle of applying that for ourselves and building it from there. Number 4, write and negotiate contracts. Again, something you can train a high-level operations director on doing that. But in the meantime, as you're doing the work, know that you're also building for the long term. Because like all this stuff is money-making activities. But like we covered in section 1, for those who may have this printed or have this on hand, literally the first page is called the 6 personal perspectives. And on there, it talks about commitment to self-mastery, and that is becoming the best you can possibly be. And then commit to the 80-20 principle. That is the idea that 80% of our results will come from 20% of core activities. Our core activities happen to be these 6 things, but of that, the top of that 6 is number 1, lead generate, capture, and convert. And I'm going to beat that into everyone's head, because just like a doctor can't practice being a doctor without patients, right? The best law firms cannot operate without clients who are willing to pay those fees for them to hire your firm, right? So the list goes on and on. And also the idea of focusing on these core 6 allow you to go from just entrepreneurial, like, hey, I'm just going to make it up as I go along, to like building on a systematic process and being purposeful in what we do, right? So you can even divide your day into these 6 categories and you'll still do really, really well in real estate. Let's see here, core competencies, and we'll go a little deeper. Lead generate, capture, and convert. And we kind of went through them already. I'm going to fly through these portions here. Mindset. To achieve your highest potential, these 6 core competencies must be done consistently and done well. Early on, it's going to feel like all you're doing is making contact with people, finding people who want to be buyers, sellers, and you do a lot of training. And even to this day, like Mike and I spent half the day yesterday training. Like we were learning about cryptocurrency, we were learning about social media, we were talking to like older brokers and realtors that we've known for years and asking them about the market change, all this stuff. And so the learning never ends. One of the core 6, number 4 on that first page is make being learning based the foundation of your action plan. Because what you're going to find as you're making your calls, it's going to help tremendously. Oh, I'm sorry. And that was on the first booklet from the other day. But and so I'm going to go back and forth a little bit on but the idea is the more you learn, the more it's easier to follow up with people that you know and people you've been building a over the phone or a type of fiduciary relationship with them, right? Because we're always going to find people just by sheer, not luck, but just working hard and an opportunity, meeting, great timing type of thing. You know, what's going to end up happening? You're going to meet people who just need to sell. They're like, hey, I'm done. I need to move to Japan. I'm out. No, I don't care who does it as long as they can start right away. And hallelujah, right? That's payday. Yeah, absolutely. But then there's so many more people along that path that are going to be like, hey, I don't want to do anything. My kids are still in high school. I'm stuck for another 4 years at least, or whatever. So what do we talk about in that 4 year span, right? So those things that have really made like our career really take off is what we call time on task over time. I know Moj isn't going to sell her house when I met her in 2014, right? But then you know what? When we connect, not that we met in 2014, but as an example, over that time though, hey, we sent her like regular updates. We stayed in touch over the phone. Her kids have grown, her business has grown, all sorts of things have happened. She knows I'm in real estate because I'm always asking if she has any needs or updates around real estate that we can help with. And we probably updated her through 2 or 3 market changes in that span of time, right? So by the time, hey, she finally has a property that she might be thinking of offloading, maybe doing a 1031 exchange, something I may have brought to her in the past. I might not be a shoo-in as the realtor of choice, but I might have an opportunity to have the appointment with her about that, right? And then she might grill me and say, well, can you do it for 1% or something like that? And then I'll stand my ground and all that fun stuff. But the idea of it is to be 1 or 2 in their mind when it comes to that. But being hooked and focusing on the core 6 or the core 1 of the 6 allows you to say, okay, I need more clientele. Like this person said yes, but they could easily say no, right? And now you're back to ground zero. And we'll elaborate more on that. Lastly, on there was manage the money. Manage the money when the amounts are small, right? Like I was just talking to an agent from our office, and he went from rookie of the year last year, made just under 100. This year, he's essentially quadrupled what he's made, or quintupled what he's made from last year to this year. And the good news is he started when the amounts were small, right? Because when all of a sudden you've got like $80,000, $60,000 hitting your bank account, you're kind of like, whoa, I could disappear for a whole year, or whatever, right? So, like, but he kind of had a plan and like, well, what do I do with this? And we'll talk to your CPA, right? And then, hey, think about investing in real estate. Think about other things that you can do with it. But he was genuinely like, wow, I could either triple my lifestyle or I can feel comfortable that I got the next, 6 months squared away if everything went to hell. Yeah. And hey, I still have this going on. So that manage the money part, it sounds ridiculous because maybe the amounts are really small right now, but like Jim Rohn says, handle everything when the amounts are tiny. Because when it gets too big, it's just like, oh my God, what do we do? Right? Any ahas from this that you guys would like to share with the group? Excuse me. Online, Alessandra or Brenda or anyone here, any ahas from this morning so far?
Actually, investing part is very important for any movie.
Oh yeah.
We have to know at some point something we have to have some level to understand what are we doing, how we're going to invest, because there are many people. What I've seen there is very interesting in investing with. It was not like that the way they planned. So we're opening their minds to read this asset. So they really have to know how to invest in a smart way to educate the client, open their eyes to know about this asset and how it works. So yeah, this
there you go.
Master that to educate the client because they don't have this information.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if all you did was take that back to every call, complete stranger to someone you know, you're always going to be top of mind. And then find a way just to like, maybe not every week, pound it into everyone that you meet. And there's different ways you can do it on command or even just on a regular calendar, but time it to where you're at least following up with someone every 3 to 4 months, and keeping great notes on what you're sharing with them or what they responded with you. Even if it's just a voicemail. Like my first 2 out of 3 listings were cold calls that I didn't even talk to them. I originally had left a voicemail on their answering machine. And it went something like, hi, John, this is Philip with Keller Williams Realty. The reason for this message is that your neighbor Oh, sorry. Dude. Hello, John. This is Philip with Keller Williams Realty. The reason for this message is that a client of mine is selling a house on 123 Main Street and was curious to know if any of the neighbors directly near you or by you were thinking of doing the same. For any questions, feel free to call or text me at 818-635-6743. And I would just leave messages like, out of my 80 calls, if 25, 30 of them were answering machines I left behind a day, and then eventually people were calling me back. And most of them were calling from block numbers, but I would hear the voice number. Oh, hey, they gave me a number. They didn't give me the number. They gave me an address. So I just reverse search it. Oh, it was Robert Olmos. Let me call him. And there were people who were like, hey, I want to sell. What do I do?
Yeah, you have to be consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I have one comment to make on point 6, managing the money.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good practice when you start to deal with smaller stuff, kind of like practicing.
Mm-hmm.
As you develop, you have to deal with bigger dollar amounts.
Oh, yeah.
And it's I would think it's a prerequisite. I wouldn't say prerequisite, but it's good to have the CPA. And possibly down the line, you might want to consider, I'm just saying as an accountant, maybe offering yourself as an S corp to begin with, where the money goes to S corp. That's really how to manage the money.
Yeah.
I think managing the money in itself is not a small thing. That's a big job. So you may make X amount of dollars, like you said, the person that you were helping with 100,000 and he manages money to be falling up like 400, 500,000. But you can lose it all to taxes or manage it somehow with an accountant. That would be something you want to put in mind down the line.
Oh, 1000%. You nailed it. My wife and I, we finally set ourselves up with an S corp.
S corporation.
In early part of 2020, right before the pandemic. But, we're related doctors, I'm a related doctor. We didn't start actually using the account until the end of the year. We started telling our brokerage, hey, just pay us through this S corp. And then there was a tremendous difference. I mean, not to get into the weeds, but we had a really good year last year. And with the S corp, our tax situation
Saved a lot.
saved tons.
Yeah.
Holy cow! I mean, like, look, $500,000, and then we're only paying like 50 in taxes.
Yeah.
I'll take that. Like, holy cow!
But you are not that we do, so you have to use it back.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, 1000%.
Yeah.
If you go just through the normal channel and get your income check as just a regular person, then you may be going up. With today's times, taxes going up to be very, if you are going to, I don't know, 35%, 40%, all of a sudden you're thinking about 50% of your income. It's your hard-earned money that you strive for, you plan for, and all that stuff. It goes to, but if you have an S corp, that's the way the government allows you to take the money out when you need it. To save money.
Distribution. Yeah.
Distribution.
Yeah. On that thread with managing the money, I mean, I remember when someone told me early on, people were like, hey, set yourself up in the corporation. In my mind, my thinking was so small, and I'm just like, oh, it's whatever it cost at the time, $400, $500. But if I had set it up at that time early on, God knows, right? But not only the savings, but also how you think of yourself as a business, as opposed to just a cog in the machine, right? Like when we set it up and it came through, we felt different. But then when we actually started seeing the check go towards Team La Familia Real Estate Incorporated, and like, ooh, it's real.
Corporation world, you're a corporation, or you have to educate yourself. It's not like you have CPA and they do everything for you. No, you have to know stuff. You have to know.
Not pitch, and anyone who's available online or hearing this, next Wednesday, we're doing an event down at Sagebrush, and we're having somebody talk about like corporate entities to set up. Why an S corp here, why a C corp there, why an LLC, all that stuff. And then he's also a tax preparer too. But I said, look, if it's not too much in the weeds, talk about from the tax aspect. And this is the key for all of us, Alessandra, Brenda too, is have your little circle, and you'll see this as we evolve Ignite through the next couple of weeks. It's like have your go-to circles for accounting, your CPA. We're not CPAs, right? And we shouldn't be giving tax advice. However, I'm gonna be like, hey, you know what, John? That's a great question. You may need to check with your CPA. And if you don't have one, like who's versed in real estate, I have one or two that you can interview. And here's the cool thing: they go to them, you make the connection. You're like kind of like the godfather for that person now. Like, ooh, wow, this is a really good CPA.
Right.
And they won't tell us, but they'll probably save like 20, 30, 40, $50,000 just by checking the right boxes or knowing how to like line themselves up.
They know, and I'm just saying it, but they know how to push the envelope in a way. So next Wednesday, stage budget.
Stage budget about 12:45.
12:45.
Yeah, my wife and I get there a little early to reserve tables and stuff like that at network. But pop on by. We only ask that everyone buy one drink. Doesn't have to be alcohol, tea, coffee, just enough to like where the restaurant invites us back for more. Yeah, for sure. Recognize the role. Now, on that thread that you were sharing about the CPA aspect, again, we're not CPAs, we're not attorneys, but we connect with people who know those things inside and out. And early on, you might not have all those people, but then your mentor might know somebody, or if you're on that forward living WhatsApp, like somebody earlier asked for a commercial appraiser. I happen to know one. So I dropped the guy's information, John Camoon's information in there, and they needed like a commercial warehouse inspector. I happen to know the guy who can provide that. So the role as a fiduciary is knowing the difference between a fiduciary and a functionary. And real quickly, let me drop into the chat for our team here. Oops, wrong button. So guys, I'm going to drop in here the guidebook. I actually don't think one of the slides, they actually don't give us the actual slide for it, but if you open this on your laptop or desktop and scroll to number, let's see, page, what was that? 2.7. So then that would be page, I think if you're on your computer, it's gonna be like page 34 or 35, and it'll say fiduciary versus functionary. So you guys here in person, page 2.7 on there you go, on Embrace Your Job. It actually goes through what the differences between a functionary and a fiduciary are. Hang on, let me see if I could be closing on maybe here. No, this is be the fiduciary. Yeah. So on here, it talks about functionary on the left-hand side is a low level versus high level, low relationship versus high relationship, assumes little responsibility, uses low skills, recorded information only, responds to needs, processes data, narrow view, picture viewpoint, delivers information. You're literally an employee on the left-hand side of that functionary task, right? That's a pretty, no offense to anyone who's hired them, but it's kind of like open door or hiring Redfin. I mean, literally that person's there just to do these items, right? On the right-hand side, you see things like maximum legal responsibility. You're a partner with them. You own the results. You educate and guide to what you were saying, right? Big picture viewpoint. Like, hey, this first purchase isn't going to last, right? And hey, you know what? In 10 years, when you're like ready to turn this into a rental, or use this as a stepping stone for the next house, I'm going to advise you on maybe just focusing one or the other. You're going to have options. Anticipates needs, right? Like, hey, when you close, you need to talk to someone about putting this into a living trust. The last thing you want is your heirs to go about this, to fighting over this in probate court, right? And that's a nightmare. Just Google any of the news stories around it. Let's see here, advises and consults. Early on, a team leader shared with me, Philip, be a resource and consultant, and you'll never have to sell. He was right. As crazy as she was right. The more you put yourself out there as a resource and as a consultant, helping people with their real estate needs, and for just their needs in general, even if it doesn't mean making a paycheck for that time, it always comes back. There was a call earlier today, it was a long-winded call, and she said, it was for a lease, not even like a sale. And I was like, we'll do the lease and we'll knock it out. This is the side. And I said something to the effect that we normally don't do this type of investment in marketing, but to make sure that we get the best tenant for her, which is true, it will cost us money. Like, hey, we're going to go the distance. And she made my day by saying, I will be ready to sell. If this whole thing with there's that new arena they're building, aside from basketball stadiums and the Clippers, if that thing goes south and it doesn't work out, I'm totally selling this place. And I'm not going to sell it to anyone but you. I'm like, oh, that made my morning. I'm like, awesome. Dude, so we're sending, the photographer over, and it's like a break-even type cost,
That's an example of building a business through relationship.
There you go.
Right.
So, and those things will be recurring themes in your career, because they'll take you beyond just the one deal. It'll take you to like other places. Any ahas on this portion in describing the difference between a functionary and a fiduciary? All right. Now we're going to review the success system. So today was a little bit on the shorter end, and a lot of Ignite is broken down into smaller chunks, right? In years past, they kind of condensed it into like 10 steps, 12 steps. We went from the core 6 competencies to our role as a fiduciary. Jump into this. Nothing else about your business will have as big of it as an impact on it as a number of leads you have. And this kind of takes us back into the activity portion of what we do. Depending on who you're working with, you might be learning how to door knock, how to work a sphere of influence, how to work open houses.
Or you guys throwing scripts and everything to just, you've never done this before, you don't know how to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And there's most likely you're gonna do something wrong with, when you don't know. So I'm very interested in how to door knock and all this kind of stuff, how to reach people and how to start the conversation and what to tell them.
Right. It is interesting. Like, let me ask you, where are you starting? Are you starting with the people you know or people you don't know?
Right. I mean, I'm gonna be okay with both sides.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you start with
Much
people,
comfortable is gonna be to talk to someone that you know.
absolutely.
From the beginning.
Right. And your first, like, if you want to call it a script or like your first introduction
Right.
or call to them
Right.
would be like, hey, is it Nikolai or Nicholas?
Nicholas.
Nicholas, sorry.
So it's like Nicholas, but no C.
Oh, Z. Okay, got it.
Nicholas.
Nicholas.
And,
I'm Philip with an F.
okay.
Yeah. So like kind of a different thing, but so I would just say, hi, Philip, this is Nicholas. Yeah, and I'm like, hey, bro, how's it going? Or how will we talk? Right. And the next thing would be like, I just want to let you know that I got into real estate recently. You may have, I don't know if you posted about it. You may have seen my post, maybe you didn't, but I'm letting everybody I know that I am now a realtor with Keller Williams, and was curious to see if you knew of anybody who was thinking about buying or selling real estate at this time.
Right.
And then I'll answer like, hey, no one comes to mind. And you'd say, great. And then your next reply is with, hey, is it totally cool if, or whatever you say, is it okay if you happen to know of anyone who might be thinking of making a move in real estate? I'm top of mind and you can send them my info or vice versa. Sure.
Right.
And I would just have them in my database. If you're using Command, type them in there, or if you upload the whole thing with our virtual assistant and you upload the whole thing into Command, I'd write a note and start them on what's called a quarterly campaign. It'll automatically remind you every 3 months to call them, and it'll leave a space to leave a note. Or if it's someone you want to follow for the holidays, you can even do a holiday campaign. And on some of these campaigns, they even tell you like the scripts to use. So they probably teach a class on that. On one of these, I want to say it's session 5 or 6 next week. So that's Wednesday or Friday next week. We did a deep dive into Command. So bring your laptop. So everyone bring your laptops and we can go through a quick run through of that. And you can even use your mobile app too. You can download them.
For sure.
Yeah, awesome. But the easy script for those that you're just calling round 1 is just introduce them to the idea that you're in real estate. Right. And then the big ask is, do you mind if we keep in touch when it comes to real estate updates? As you know, the market is changing almost every afternoon, like whenever the closing bell hits. So that's just like a built-in reason to follow up. And if they give you a lead, like high five, awesome, and then work with your mentor on how to dissect that. And again, other questions, we'll walk you through it. Because the number of leads you have will ultimately determine how many appointments you get to have, how many agreements you take, buyer, seller, or both. Listing view control, buyers you get to show properties to. That's all going to stem from the motivated people in your pool, or what we call your lead pipeline.
What about the door knocking? So there are people there just avoiding this
strategy.
But Words like.
Yeah, guerrilla warfare, going door to door. So we have a teammate of ours and we did a call this morning and I shared with her, well, similar question, are you door knocking in a geo farm, a place that you're going to door knock repeatedly? Oh, actually Brenda's on here with us. But are you door knocking a place that's like a recurring place or is it totally cold? And the answer was relatively cold, but she would like to go back. Either way though, we directed her to the Simi Valley website, right? And just said, hey, pull an article out here that is the most helpful article you can find. Maybe it's about water conservation or free resources with that area of Simi. And, on the other side of it, print out comps, like the average days on market, sold price, average median price, all that stuff, which we can easily teach. Print that out. And now you have a two-sided sheet. Hi, thanks for answering the door. My name is Philip with Keller Williams. I'm just stopping by the neighborhood today to drop off this helpful flyer. On one side, it's all about your neighborhood, all about the community, all the free resources that are here. On the other side is a market update about the average price of homes being sold here. And of course, the market's ever changing. I was curious to find out if you knew of any of your neighbors as well who might benefit from this information, who have thought about selling or investing in real estate.
Cool.
And that is like as super simple as I can get at the door.
Right.
If there's a point of value, which is
Right.
all about them,
Right.
flip it around. Hey, there's value on what the neighborhood is going for. And then it's to ask, right? But either way, you can fall back on the side of, great, market's ever changing. Is there a way I can keep in touch with you without going to your door every week, right? And then you might usually get a laugh out of that.
Right.
And you might get an email address, phone number, maybe you can text them. And that's how you can keep them in your database, which we're about to hit on. And at the same time, build a sustainable relationship with them. Because you're right, the door to door isn't going to go away. Unless you go to our door, Monica will embarrass you because she destroys people who go to our door. So guilty over there. Don't knock on her door. 8460 Independence. Do not knock on that door.
Oh. I know. I have a little one. I hear that.
Monica's like, did you pay the water bill? I swear I did. Oh God, gotta have fun with it. And one of the big things here, I'll
write down that number. Give me that address.
8460 Independence Avenue.
Yeah.
But when we know people, and if I'm the one answering, I'm always like, I'm polite. We change phone numbers. Monica, no. Don't bother her. Accountable people achieve results others can only dream of. And this is the accountability piece of Ignite. As we kind of ease our way into this, the way this works is making those contacts. 10 contacts. I'll even accept DM, like two-way text messages. I'll accept that for Ignite. Mainly because, hey, we need to get everyone ourselves into a rhythm. And believe it or not, I mean, when we're old school sales, I guess, where we didn't even count phone calls. We only counted face-to-face as a contact, and they had to be brand new. So all of our lead follow-up was just like something you did. And we were kind of graded upon like how many face-to-face new prospects you were engaging every day, right? Monday through Sunday. So that was kind of the world we grew up in. But the world is different now in 2022. And oh God, yeah. People will tell their mom I love you on text message or on Facebook, but will never tell their mom I love you on the phone. I tell you I love you. I tell my mom I love her. But they'll post about loving their mom, but they'll never say that to their mom. So I'll take what it is.
Not for mom, it's for the people, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's for the people. So, yeah. Yes. And so why fight it? Right. So I finally accepted that, hey, look, if you text somebody, like for example, hey Philip, I just want, or hey bro, or whatever you call me, just want to let you know that I'm in real estate now, I'm a realtor, and was curious to know if you knew of anyone who would benefit from meeting me and helping them buy or sell, invest in real estate. I'll take that as a two-way dialogue with your reply back. And that could count as a 10. Obviously for me, I do like a combination of the two. right? I'll make calls, I'll text message, I'll DM, reply to a ton of messages on my phone. But talk to them in their language, right? If you ever read the 5 love languages, I got to read mine again because apparently I'm crapping out with my wife. Haha, it's a joke, it's a bad joke. But at the same time, not that texting is one of the 5 love languages, but my point is that they're 90% texting, text them, right? Or if you do call them, and then usually a really good friend will say, hey, I'm at work, what's going on? It's an emergency.
I was just going to make a comment. I think in the last few years, I used to be nervous one, but I used to make a phone call. But I think the new generation, or the new, they're so apt to texting. Their way of communication is not in person like a lot of people. It's just texting. So keep in mind, if you call somebody, if they're not there, you might want to text them. I don't know, maybe 1 out of 10 times will work. Just keep in mind, if you're texting, maybe if they're younger generation, they're old school, they will pick up the phone and talk to you. But if the new generation, they're more into texting because I guess the larger, so they just want to make.
No, you nailed it, and because it's so true. It really is the way now. I mean, we're so beat up by it. This is about choosing an accountability partner. So Alessandra, I don't know if you've got your mentor or productivity coach. Reach out to he or she about building this out, like having a safe way to say, like, hey, my goal is 10 contacts a day, sending out 10 thank you notes or 10 thank you emails a day, being able to add 10 people to my database or edit 10 in my database, and do my 10 likes, my five comments, and my 1 DM, right? And you'll be shocked if you did that 5 days a week for the next 8 weeks, 2 months, on top of all the other stuff that you're doing. And there'll be some days you talk to 40 people, right? Or 50 people. But if you consistently hit the 10, minimum 10 daily 10 fours, what we call it, you're gonna at least have, if not a deal by that time, you're gonna have 5 or 10 people on the cusp of signing a listing agreement easily. Let's see here. And then we hit on the 10-5-1 social media engagement. You can't measure it, you can't improve it, right? Just talking about our social media campaigns and all the activities we've been doing. And when we're not looking at it, it's easy to get caught up in the 1 or 2 deals that we have, right? But then how do we get there? Was it totally by accident, or was it because, hey, we methodically were making 25 contacts a day, scheduling 2 listing appointments a week, taking 1 listing a week, and then off you go to the races. And ditto for social media. This is something that we use in terms of conversing with our sphere. Like, if all else failed and you didn't have a script, always ask people, hey, how's your family doing? Right? Hey, how's work? Hey, how are we doing on our time off? Hey, if you were to sell and move, where would you be moving to next? Right? Like, if money weren't a thing, where would you be moving to? And I probably wouldn't be asking that deep of my best friend, and they're like, Philip, come on. but usually between family and occupation, you probably get pretty far in a conversation. Rarely, honestly, I've never gone through forward with somebody on a phone call, because that's just way too much of a call. But if I already know kind of what they're up to and then they're in business like me, I might ask them, like, hey, so what's after this business? What is the dream of building this business? Right? Rarely do I meet someone who's like, yeah, I work for Coca-Cola and my dream is to retire, with a little bit of money. It's like a weird fun question to ask. But if I know they own their business, I'll probably go into dreams with them. There we go. Database. So this is Kate on the command. Alessandra and Nicholas, are you guys working with somebody directly on how to set up your command, or are you guys attending Scott Leroy? Haven't started yet. Alessandra, have you started on that by any chance?
Not yet. I was told to do the Scott Roy.
Okay, there you go. That's a great starting point, because Scott Leroy actually has all everything on YouTube, so you can literally.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Awesome. And then worst comes to worst, on Wednesday, Friday of next week, everything we're going to be doing in Ignite is going to be on command. So like after that, yes, we're going to have training, but we're also going to do a lot of the database stuff, campaigns. With a little bit of money, you can do paid ads. So we did something like that with Brenda and all that fun stuff. So Thank you guys for attending today. Our next one is on Friday. And now we'll not wrap up this week, but we'll finish up on Friday, our third session. Any questions you have, just look us up on the roster and just text message or call us or drop it on the Forward Living chat. And we'll see you guys around. Everyone take care. All right, you guys are welcome. See you guys.